When Harper Lane paid cash for a crumbling gas station at the edge of nowhere, all she wanted was a quiet place to start over, just her, the desert wind, and an old truck she could finally fix without interruptions. But beneath the shattered concrete and rusted pumps was something no inspection ever uncovered. A sealed hatch, warm to the touch, and humming with buried secrets. By the time she unlatched it, it wasn't about property anymore. It was about truth, and what someone once hid to keep the world from ever finding out. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. These stories seem to find hearts in the most unexpected places. And if you believe in second chances, old places with secrets, and women who never stop digging, literally, hit that subscribe button. Because tomorrow's story, it'll go even deeper than this one. The sign read, Henderson's Gas and Service, last stop before the desert, but most of the letters had rusted into ghosts. The roof sagged over 2 cracked pumps. One hose lay coiled like a dead snake, the other sliced clean through. Harper Lane stood in the amber light of a setting sun, staring at what she'd just bought, $5,600, cash. No inspections, no promises. Just a deed shoved across a dusty desk at the county clerk's office, and a muttered warning from the clerk. That place? You sure, honey? She had nodded. Because Harper didn't scare easy. Not anymore. The pickup she drove still carried half her life in the bed tools, 2 duffel bags, and the last photograph of her dad before his heart gave out in a motel near Reno. He'd been a mechanic all his life, never went to school, but could rebuild an engine by feel. Harper used to watch him work from under the hood, like it was church. After he died, she kept moving, town to town, job to job, hands calloused, soul fraying. She told herself she wasn't running, just looking for the right kind of silence. This place had to it. The desert wind whispered across the cracked asphalt as Harper unlocked the front door of the small convenience shop. The glass pane had a spiderweb of breaks across the top corner, like it had caught a thrown bottle years ago and never healed. Inside, dust coated everything. Counters, shelves, even the old metal register that looked like it hadn't dinged in a decade. The air smelled like motor oil, old paper, and something else. Something like burnt copper. She walked the perimeter slowly, boots echoing on the concrete floor. A few broken cigarette packs sat on a wire rack. Behind the counter, she found a tattered logbook. The last entry was from 1998, just 3 words, "We're not ready." She shut the book. The sun had dipped lower. By the time she stepped back outside, her breath caught for a moment. The light hit the pumps just right, casting long shadows that made them look like grave markers. She walked toward the nearest one, reaching down to move a length of hose off the asphalt. That's when she felt it, a soft tremor beneath her boots. She froze. Another step, and the pavement groaned a hollow sound, like a drum. Harper knelt, running her hand across the surface. The crack spidered out under her touch. Then, without warning, the ground gave way. A chunk of concrete collapsed inward, sending glass shards skittering like ice. She stumbled back, heart racing. Dust rose in a slow swirl. And there, in the middle of what used to be a parking bay, was a square opening, metal edges, reinforced framing. And just below, dimly glowing in the shadows, a hatch. Not buried. Not rusted shut. Just waiting. Harper blinked, heart thudding louder than the wind. This gas station wasn't abandoned, it was hiding. Harper stood at the edge of the broken asphalt, staring down into the dark. The metal hatch was roughly 4 feet square, framed in steel that looked too clean for how long the station had been abandoned. No rust. No weathering. Just dust. Like it had been sealed tight. Protected from time or maybe from discovery. She crouched and waved some of the dust aside. The hatch had a small keypad embedded into its center. Dead, for now. But the metal beneath her fingers felt warm. Not hot like it had been baking in the sun, warm like a machine on standby. Still alive. She sat back on her heels, trying to steady her breath. "Okay, Harper," she whispered. "What the hell did you just buy?" Her thoughts flickered to the clerk at the county office. The way he looked at her when she said the address. She'd thought it was just small-town superstition. But now, this wasn't superstition. This was structure, engineering, intention. She rose, brushing off her gloves, and made her way back to the truck. In the bed, she rummaged through her tools, crowbars, socket sets, flashlights. The crowbar she grabbed out of habit, but it was the flashlight she really needed. She clicked it on and pointed it into the hole. The light caught walls. Concrete. Reinforced. A ladder disappeared downward, bolted into the side. The rungs were steel, wide set, worn smooth from use. Harper scanned deeper. At about 20 feet down, the floor. A small landing. Metal tiles. She swallowed. Most people would have backed off, called someone, put the lid back on and driven away. But Harper Lane wasn't most people. She didn't have anyone to call. No boss. No backup. Just her, and a creeping suspicion that whatever this was, it was meant to stay hidden. And that made her want to see it even more. She grabbed a roll of paracord from the truck, looped it around her belt just in case, and slid the crowbar through the strap on her pack. The flashlight stayed clenched in her teeth as she tested the ladder. Solid. No creaks. No give. With one last breath, she lowered herself in. The temperature dropped fast as she descended. 20 feet never felt so far. Every rung echoed into silence. She kept her boots light. Didn't want to disturb whatever this place was, or worse, whoever it belonged to. At the bottom, she stepped onto the landing. Her boots clanged softly against the metal. The air was cool, dry, almost sterile, like a hospital or a server room. The hallway ahead was narrow, concrete walls with inset panels. A red light blinked faintly above a closed door marked Secure, Level 1, Ampere. She aimed the flashlight at the walls. No cobwebs, no rodents, no dust piles, just silence and power. She reached for the door panel, fingers hovering above it. Behind her, a soft mechanical click. She turned. The hatch above had closed on its own. Harper's breath caught in her throat. She stood frozen at the base of the ladder, staring up at the sealed hatch. It had closed without a sound, no wind, no draft, no shifting weight. Just a click, soft and deliberate, like the place had waited for her to climb all the way down before making its move. She swung the flashlight beam up the ladder. The opening was gone. The steel hatch now blended seamlessly with the ceiling. No handles, no release. Just smooth, shut metal. Harper took a step back, her boots clicking against the floor, and exhaled. "Well," she muttered, voice echoing in the tight concrete corridor. "That's not ominous at all." The flashlight cast long shadows down the hall. Pipes ran along the ceiling, fastened with industrial clamps. Conduit wires snaked into fuse boxes and control panels. Every inch of the place screamed Cold War-era mid-century paranoia polished in stainless steel. But it was alive. Somewhere, faintly, Harper could hear the soft hum of electricity. She moved toward the door marked Secure, Level 1 Ampere. Its panel blinked red once as she approached. Not locked. Not yet. She pressed her hand to the access panel. Nothing. Just a faint warmth beneath the surface. Her flashlight caught the edge of a small keypad below the red light. 5 digits, unlit. She hesitated. Then instinctively, she typed. The only number tied to this place, 1958, the year the original deed was filed. Error. She tried again. 1998. The date from the final logbook entry upstairs. The panel flashed yellow this time, followed by a soft whir. Then click. The door slid open with a hiss. She stepped through. The next room was much larger. A wide, rectangular chamber, with walls lined in filing cabinets, old metal desks, and bank after bank of dusty computer terminals, the kind that needed punch cards and patience. In the center sat a massive steel door embedded into the far wall. Circular, seamless, a vault door. Harper approached it slowly, shining her light over the engravings stamped into the surface. U.S. Strategic Resource Containment Facility, Authorized Access Only Section 9. She reached out, ran her gloved fingers along the edge. This wasn't a panic room or storm shelter. This was federal, military. Hidden beneath a desert gas station no one remembered except maybe those who built it. Next to the vault was another control panel, more complex than the first. It wasn't just a keypad, it had a keyhole, a retinal scanner, and what looked like an ancient card swipe reader. Harper stepped back and let the reality settle in. Someone built this to stay closed. For a long time. Maybe forever. She looked around the room again. There were documents scattered across one of the desk's faded folders, crumbling files, all stamped classified. Her hands itched to start reading, but her eyes kept drifting back to the vault. Something was behind that door, something they locked away and never came back for. And Harper had just become its first visitor in decades. Harper dragged one of the metal chairs across the concrete and sat down hard, her flashlight angled toward the scattered files. The air in the room had an old paper smell, like a forgotten archive, brittle, dry, tinged with dust and ozone. She pulled the first folder toward her. The cover read, File Log, Section 9, Operations Property of U.S. Dept. Of Energy, Eyes Only. She flipped it open. The pages inside were typed on yellowed paper, some with redacted lines, others stamped with acronyms she didn't recognize. Asset Transfer, Operation Vestibule, Containment Logs, Phase 3. Power draw signatures do not exceed 12.7 megawatts. Harper's brow furrowed. This wasn't a supply cache. It wasn't a fuel depot. This was part of something bigger, experimental, maybe even dangerous. She opened another folder marked, Incident Report, the 23rd of July 2067. The first line hit her like a punch. Vault 9 remained sealed following secondary breach during Phase 2 transfer. Internal temperature dropped 14 degrees. Seismic readings consistent with displacement, but no structural collapse reported topside. No survivors retrieved. No survivors. She swallowed and kept reading. Some pages were handwritten, the scrawl of someone in a hurry. One note was scribbled on graph paper, tucked between technical schematics and personnel rosters. If anyone finds this and I'm not here, we tried to lock it down. We really did. But containment isn't the same as understanding. Keep it sealed. Her flashlight dimmed slightly, flickering at the edges. She gave it a shake and dug through her bag for a spare battery. While switching it out, she noticed a small box near the desk's edge locked, but the lid had popped from age. Inside, a stack of plastic keycards. Most were warped. Useless. But one looked newer, less faded. The back read, Authorized. 9 amperes, clearance, Tech, Owens, R. She tucked it into her jacket pocket and turned back to the vault. On a nearby panel, beneath the retinal scanner and keypad, was a narrow card reader, the kind used on magnetic strip doors. Harper hesitated. The room's hum had grown louder, like the facility was awakening inch by inch with every move she made. She slid the card through the reader. Nothing. Then, a beep. The panel turned green for a half second. Then red again. A denial, but not a total rejection. Closer than before, she whispered. She took one more look around the file room. A corner door marked, Surveillance, File Room 9, was half open. Harper stepped through. Inside was a wall of old security monitors, thick glass screens, some broken, others static. But one flickered to life. A grainy feed of the room she stood in. From the corner, at a high angle, she stared at the screen, then slowly turned toward the same corner in the real room. A tiny red light blinked back. Someone had been watching. Maybe still was. Harper backed out of the room slowly, the sense of being alone now fully gone. The vault wasn't the only thing still active. The camera's blinking red light followed Harper like a heartbeat. She didn't run, not because she wasn't scared, but because fear meant little without options. The only way out was sealed overhead, and the only way forward was deeper in. She took a long breath, steadying her hands, and turned off the flashlight. The room dimmed, but not to darkness. Faint strips of emergency lighting pulsed low along the floorboards, like runway markers leading her toward the vault. The hum was louder now, deeper, like it came from inside the walls. Whatever powered this place hadn't failed. It had been sleeping. Harper stepped closer to the main panel beside the vault door. She slid the keycard again. Green flash, then red. Still not enough. She scanned the other control surfaces. Next to the keypad was a recessed console, sealed under glass. A label was etched in metal. Biometric secondary, retina divided by fingerprint. She wasn't getting through that part without something or someone who had once worked here. Her eyes returned to the scattered folders on the desk. She flipped through them faster now, this time searching for names. On the 5th page of a personnel list, she found it. Tech Owens. Raymond, 9 amperes, clearance access level. full. Next to his name, a photo badge, square jaw, military haircut. And one thing that stopped her breath, a note scribbled beside it. Resides on site. Bunker quarters. Sublevel 2. Harper froze. Resides. This place had living quarters. She found a blueprint tucked inside the next folder, yellowed and wrinkled. A crude floor plan, but readable. She traced her finger from the room marked File Storage to a stairwell leading down, labeled SL2, Personal Quarters, divided by lab access. She didn't want to go deeper. But this vault, it wasn't just a vault. It was part of something much larger. A system, a story, a secret carefully tucked beneath a gas station and forgotten, or maybe not forgotten, just buried. She moved fast now, flashlight bouncing as she followed the marked hallway. At the stairwell, she hesitated. The air here was colder, the walls thicker. She descended slowly, boots echoing against steel steps. At the bottom, a corridor stretched into the dark. Door after door lined the walls, some sealed, others ajar. The second door was marked Owens in faded paint. Harper pushed it open. Inside was a small room cot, desk, storage locker. A layer of dust coated everything, but it wasn't untouched. The bed had been made. A coffee mug sat on the desk, upright, not shattered. A notebook lay open to the last page. Containment stable. Vault integrity holding. No signs of breach, yet. If you're reading this, you're not supposed to be here. But then again, neither were we. Beneath the notebook sat a metal case the size of a shoebox. It was locked, but a handprint scanner blinked on its lid. She reached for it, then stopped. Something moved in the hallway. Not mechanical. Footsteps. Harper killed the flashlight and held her breath. The sound was unmistakable. Slow, deliberate footsteps just beyond the doorway. Not the soft shuffle of a rat. Not the hum of machinery. Heavy, human. She backed, silently into the corner of Owens's quarters, crouching low. The handprint scanner on the case continued its slow blink steady, waiting. Her pulse matched its rhythm. Then, silence. No more footsteps. She waited. 1 minute. Then 2. Nothing. Finally, Harper stood and moved toward the door, heart thudding in her ears. She peered into the hallway. Empty. Whoever or whatever had been there was gone. Or watching. She returned to the desk, eyeing the metal case. The handprint scanner had no keypad, no override, no sign of tampering. It required someone. She didn't have Owen's print, but she had his space. Maybe his backup? She opened the desk drawers, rifling through brittle papers, a maintenance pass card, and at last tucked beneath an envelope a small plastic square labeled Emerg. Override. Containment Access. SL2. She pulled it free, inserted it into the slot beside the scanner. The blinking stopped. A soft green light flared. Then click. The case popped open. Inside were 3 things. A journal, bound in faded black leather, initials RO on the front. A sealed envelope marked Vault 9. Final inventory. A single metal bar, heavy and cold. Harper lifted it into the light gold, stamped. U.S. Reserve, Fort Knox, 999.9. Fine. She blinked. The bar alone was worth over $60,000. She opened the envelope. The inventory list inside was typed, stamped, and initialed. Vault 9, final contents, as of July 1967. Gold reserves, 140. 4 bars, 12 kilograms. EA. Currency bricks, USD $1. 8M, pre-1970 bills. Mixed denominations. Rare mineral isotopes. Sealed containment. Documentation unit. Project vestibule. Emergency communication relay. 1. Classified biotech capsule. SEC. Status. Red. Total estimated value. 1,967. $9,015,000 USD. Harper read the list twice. $9 million, and something they didn't even name. Biotech capsule? She flipped open Owen's journal. We were told it was a storage site temporary. But no one came to retrieve anything. We kept it sealed, monitored the sensors, ran power checks every 30 days. After 1968, the checks stopped. We stayed anyway. I stayed. There's something in Vault 9 that never belonged to us. Harper's stomach turned. Whatever they sealed down here, it wasn't just money. It was science, power, maybe something they weren't supposed to use, or didn't understand. And now, it was hers. By accident. By choice. By fate. She closed the case, tucked the journal under her arm, and stood to leave. As she reached the hallway, a low voice echoed from the stairwell above. "Miss Lane?" She froze. No one knew her name. Not down here. Not unless. "We need to talk," the voice said. Calm. Controlled. She turned. A man stood on the stairs. Black coat. Gray stubble. No badge. Just eyes like granite, and a presence that said one thing. He wasn't surprised to find her here. Harper didn't answer. The man descended slowly, like he owned every step. No gun. No flashlight. Just steady footsteps and eyes that didn't blink. She clutched the journal tighter under her arm, her other hand brushing against the crowbar strapped to her side. He stopped 5 steps from the bottom. "You've found more than you realize," he said. His voice was low, precise, the kind that had given a lot of orders in its time. "Who are you?" Harper asked, keeping her tone even. "Let's say I'm someone who used to have a key to this place." He tilted his head, almost smiling. "And someone who's very interested in what you've just uncovered." She didn't move. "I bought this property legally. The station, the land, everything under it." He nodded. "You did. And yet, some things don't show up on public records. This bunker, for example, decommissioned in 1972. Officially sealed. But that vault," he pointed down the corridor toward Vault 9. "That was never supposed to be opened." Harper's jaw clenched. "And yet, here we are." The man stepped off the stairwell and walked past her, calm as Sunday. He didn't reach for the journal. Didn't raise his voice. He simply examined the hallway like it was an old memory. "You're not the first to stumble onto something like this," he said. "But you are the first to get this far, without being warned off." Harper didn't ask what that meant. She didn't need to. He paused at Owens's door, looked inside. "Ray was a good man," he murmured. "Stayed longer than any of us. I always thought he'd be the last one down here." She stared at him. "You worked with him?" He gave a small nod. "Once. A long time ago. We signed papers we couldn't keep copies of, and worked on things we weren't supposed to understand. Then one day, we were told to walk away, but some didn't." Harper gestured to the journal in her hand. "He didn't." "No," the man said softly. "He didn't." She studied him. "What do you want?" He finally turned to face her fully. "To make you a deal. Go on. You walk away. You leave the journal, the gold, the inventory list. Everything. In exchange, you get a payout tax-free, untraceable, enough to buy any garage you want, 10 times over. No questions. No press. No follow-ups." Harper crossed her arms. "And if I don't?" His expression didn't change. "Then I can't guarantee your safety. Or the safety of anyone you tell about this. These aren't threats, Miss Lane. These are warnings. From people who've kept secrets for 50 years. She laughed once, cold and sharp. "You show up after I nearly fall into a hidden vault, read through a dead man's logs, and find a Cold War treasure trove, and you think I'll just forget it?" "No," he said quietly. "I think you're smart enough to be afraid." He handed her a black envelope, sealed. "Take a night to decide. But I'll need your answer before sunrise." Then he turned, walked past her, and disappeared up the stairwell. Harper stood frozen in the corridor long after the man's footsteps vanished. The black envelope in her hand felt heavier than it should have. She didn't open it. Not yet. Her instincts screamed that whatever was inside wasn't just a bribe, it was a leash. Back upstairs in Owen's quarters, she sat at the desk and turned on the flashlight again, letting the beam settle on the journal. She flipped to the last few pages, trying to find something. Anything that might help her decide what to do. That's when she saw it, a name scratched in the margins of the final entry. "Vestibule must remain sealed. If contact is made, report to Asher Kane." Her heart jumped. She knew that name. Asher Kane had once been a high-level strategist in the Department of Energy, but he disappeared from public view in the late 80s. Rumors swirled black sites, hidden projects, rogue operations. Harper had come across his name once, buried deep in an old mechanical forum, in a post that got deleted less than an hour later. It had something to do with containment beneath fuel depots. She hadn't thought much of it at the time. Now she wondered if that post was the last public trace of whatever this was. She opened the envelope. Inside, a single check, already made out to her. $1.5 million. Bearer cash. No name. No bank. Just numbers. And an authorization stamp. There was also a slip of paper folded behind it. Leave the property by 6 a.m. Walk away. The world forgets. Or stay. And everything changes. No signature. She stared at the check for a long time. She'd never seen that much money outside of digital headlines. Her dad had died in debt. She had enough in savings to get her through maybe 2 more months. She'd planned on turning the gas station into a shop fixing up trucks, offering tune-ups to locals passing through. She didn't dream big. She just wanted a place to belong. But this was the kind of money that could start a life. A real one. Clean. Or, she could say no. Expose whatever was buried under Vault 9. Shine a light on a piece of history someone went to a lot of trouble to erase. Tell the world about Owens. About what he died protecting. About whatever biotech capsule they left sealed behind reinforced steel. She didn't sleep that night. She paced. Read the journal again. Studied the vault door, until the darkness started to feel like it was breathing. By 4 a.m., she made up her mind. She placed the check back into the envelope and slid it under the leg of Owens' desk, where the steel foot bent into a web of rust. Then she walked to the vault, straightened her shoulders, and said aloud, "I'm not walking away." And just like that, the card reader blinked green. The vault door clicked and began to open. The vault door hissed as it unsealed, a low exhale of decades-old air flooding into the corridor, cold, sterile, not dead preserved. Harper stepped back as the heavy steel shifted inward, gears grinding with mechanical grace. A wash of light poured from inside, pale and clinical, like hospital fluorescence left burning in an abandoned wing. She held her breath and stepped through. The chamber was unlike anything she'd seen. No crates of gold, no dusty shelves, just a clean, white room the size of a basketball court, smooth floors, seamless walls. And in the center, a single glass containment unit. Inside it hovered a capsule. Metallic, coffin-shaped, suspended midair between 2 magnetic coils. Its surface shimmered with a faint pulse, a dull blue light blinking from beneath etched markings. Not English, not military. Something older, or newer. A small control panel glowed at the base of the platform. No keys, no guards. Just one line of text pulsing on the screen. Access granted. Begin extraction? Harper didn't move. The air felt charged, like standing next to a live wire. She could feel her skin prickle, her fingers twitch. Whatever was in that capsule, it was alive. Not biologically, maybe, but active. Waiting. She stepped closer and caught her reflection in the glass, her face lined with dirt, her eyes tired but clear. She didn't feel like someone who'd been hunted into submission. She felt like someone standing at a crossroads. Behind her, footsteps again. She didn't turn. "I told you not to open it," the man's voice said, softer this time. Harper stared forward. "Then you should have sealed it better." He sighed. "You don't understand what's in there." "Then explain it." He didn't. She turned. His posture was different now, shoulders slightly slumped, hands open. Less threat, more weight. "It was a test," he said. "A prototype. A biotech vault meant to preserve information, genetic archives, experimental data, maybe even something more. We were told to store it and forget it. That's what we did." She frowned. "Why forget it?" He hesitated. "Because what's inside isn't just science. It's memory, intention, maybe even identity. The kind of thing that changes how people see the world, or themselves." "So you buried it," she said, and walked away. He nodded. "And every few years, someone almost finds it, and we offer them a choice." Her voice was quiet. "How many walked away?" He met her eyes. All of them. Harper turned back to the console. The words still blinked. Begin extraction? She reached for the touchpad but paused. What happens if I say yes? I don't know, he said honestly. No one ever has. For a moment, the silence between them felt bigger than the bunker. Then Harper whispered, Then maybe it's time someone did. Her finger pressed the pad. The room dimmed. The capsule's blue light flared, and something deep inside the system woke up, not with a scream, but with a sound like a breath, drawn after too long underwater. The capsule's glow intensified, casting long shadows across the sterile room. Harper shielded her eyes as the magnetic coils disengaged with a crackling hum. The capsule lowered slowly to the platform, its pulsing light now steady. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the glass surface parted with a quiet hiss, revealing the contents inside. She expected tech wires, chips, maybe some kind of black box. What she saw instead stopped her cold. A body. Human in shape, but not in appearance. It was translucent, like molded glass, and living tissue merged into one. No hair, no facial details. Just a faint outline of limbs, a chest that rose and fell with slow mechanical breaths, and a heart visible pulsing with blue light. Harper stepped back, stunned. The man behind her didn't speak. Not right away. When he did, his voice was low and reverent. It's not alive. Not in the way you think. It's a carrier for knowledge, memories, thoughts. The final phase of Project Vestibule was never about weapons. It was about preservation. Preservation of what? She asked, barely able to speak. He looked at the figure in the capsule. A person. Or maybe more than that. Whoever or whatever they were. Their mind was encoded, stored in synthetic neurons. The body is just the vault. Harper stared at it. The faint outline of a face was becoming visible beneath the surface. Not alien, not strange. Familiar, human. She felt her knees weaken. Why was this buried? Because it worked, the man whispered, and we weren't ready for that. Harper's thoughts raced. What did it mean? Was this person a scientist? A volunteer? A weapon? A warning? The capsule's panel now displayed a message. Memory integrity. 94% initiate reconstitution. She turned to the man. You said no one ever chose to open it. I said no one ever got this far, he replied. Harper reached toward the console, then stopped. Not out of fear, out of awe. If she pushed the button, the world would change. Whether quietly or catastrophically, she couldn't know. But if she walked away now, she'd be doing what every generation before her had done, burying it. Choosing comfort over curiosity, secrecy over truth. The desert above would keep her secret. No one would know, unless she wanted them to. She looked back at the capsule. The figure inside shifted slightly, as if sensing her. The heartbeat inside it fluttered once. Then again, not just a vault, a resurrection. She stepped forward and pressed the screen. Initiate. The room flooded with light, and for the first time in over 50 years, something buried beneath the dust and silence of the desert opened its eyes. When Harper finally climbed out of the bunker, the morning sun had just begun to rise. She didn't have the check. She didn't have a plan. But she had something else. A truth too powerful to stay buried. And a story no one was ready to believe. But one she would tell anyway. Because the gas station she bought wasn't just a last stop. It was the first page of something far bigger. And it had just begun.